begin by telling you a story. This story happened spring semester of my freshman year, so about a year and a half ago. I was headed upstairs to the Heskett Center to go to the weekly climbing club meeting. As I walked into the gym, I took a look around, as you do. Okay, good. Mats are in the right place. Looks like nothing major has fallen off the wall. Wait. That's not where that goes. That shouldn't be there. That's an auto-belay lying unattached on the mat. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with climbing, an auto-belay is literally your lifeline when you're on the wall. It's what gives you a nice, gentle descent to the ground instead of a soft thump into the mats. And here I was, looking at about half of one, broken off from the rest of it, lying on the mats. Now, I talked to the person who was climbing at the time, and they were fine. They were low enough on the wall that the mats were rated to catch them. However, that's an incident that concerned me. And now, a year and a half later, as I work at a climbing gym and am a certified climbing wall instructor, there are many other things about the on-campus wall that concern me. So today, I'd like to bring those up. I'll first examine the current state of the wall, then we'll move towards the steps necessary for a solution before finally examining what potential a rock climbing wall here on campus holds. First things first, though, you should probably understand the state of the current wall. It was built in 1993, and as far as I can tell, has only had minor cosmetic upgrades since then. To put that in perspective, if the wall was a person, it would legally be allowed to drink, and judging by the state of it, it may have had a few too many. For those of you who haven't had the joy of climbing on this wall, there are places where you reach up, grab a hold, put your weight on it, and the wall drops a good quarter of an inch on you. There's also the high probability that any hold large enough that you put your weight on in a particular direction might spin out from underneath you. Then there are the maintenance concerns. As a person who's tried to keep the wall interesting by changing up the routes and problems, it's really hard to set when half of your T-bolts are stripped or cross-threaded. So we see that the structure of this needs to be upgraded, but it's not just a structural problem. I also see many operational problems with the way the wall is run. You see, to climb on the wall in the Heskett Center, you don't have to sign a waiver, you receive no instruction on how to ensure that your harness is properly fastened to you, and no instruction on how to clip into the provided auto belays. The fact that people are climbing without knowing how to put on their harness or clip into the belay is terrifying, because it means there's a good chance someone will do it wrong and take a serious fall sometime in the future. Now, I know at this point it can be easy to say, well, the wall's just too much work, not worth it, let's just close it off and we won't have climbing here on campus. But I don't believe that that's a good solution at all. Climbing is a growing industry. The Climbing Business Journal reported at the beginning of this year that the 2016 growth rate for the industry was 6.9%, and that interest in the sport is only expected to increase with climbing's debut at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. But also, we should look around to our neighbors in this state. Both K-State and KU have 40-foot rock walls that allow climbers to participate in all three of the main disciplines, whereas Wichita State is stuck with a 25-year-old wall, or 25-foot wall, that only allows one of those three. So with that current state of the wall in mind, let's move on to our second part of the discussion, the steps necessary to a solution. First and foremost, before anything else happens, we need to bring in someone qualified to do a structural inspection on the wall. Because there's no point in changing our policies if the wall itself isn't fit to climb on, and I'm certainly not qualified to make that decision. Once we have that inspection, we should then form a committee of students, faculty, administration to discuss the possibility of the future of the wall. Whether we want to build a taller wall elsewhere on campus, renovate the wall in its current state, or just replace the panels, a committee is the best way to make this decision. But even without changing the structure of the wall, there are policy changes that can and should be put in place as soon as possible. We should provide training for our staff on how to supervise climbers, so making sure that the belay is properly attached and functioning, that the mats are in the proper place, and that the necessary inspections are taking place. But also to provide training for new climbers. The Climbing Wall Instructor's Manual states that the most important job of instructors is to inform new climbers about the equipment they're using and the risks that they are taking. Then we should require that every single person on the climbing wall, first of all, signs a waiver, and second of all, receives an orientation that covers both the rules of the wall and how to clip into the auto blaze. Now, to ensure that everybody climbing on the wall has done this, I propose a tag system, where as soon as those requirements are met, the climber is then given just a laminated piece of paper with their name on it saying they've done it. They're then required to present this page, this tag, to check out equipment from the Heskett Center, or to keep it on their own personal equipment in view of the staff. This is an industry standard practice. In fact, every single place to climb in Wichita has it. The Kansas Cliff Club, Bliss Bouldering and Climbing Complex, even all of the YMCAs that have rock walls. So there's no reason that Wichita State can't adopt this policy. So now that we see the problem and the solution, I'd like to use the third part of my speech to visualize a future where Wichita State has a functional, invigorating rock wall. This would benefit first and foremost the students. Climbing is a unique way of working out that works both your body and your mind. In 2010, Purdue University had a report called Steps to the Moon, and in this report they state that climbing a wall is equivalent to taking 244 steps a minute. Now, I don't know about you all, I'm a pretty fast walker. I don't come anywhere near 244 steps a minute. And as a busy college student, the more dense my workout can be, the better, because I don't have time to do a long session. But it also benefits students by building a community. When I was a freshman here at Wichita State, one of the few things that helped pull me out of my dorm room and into the community of campus life was the climbing club. And I would hate to see that club fall into disrepair just because the wall we climb on is old. Not to mention the increased accessibility if students have access to a climbing wall. I'll be honest, rock climbing is a rich white person's sport. But by offering it to people here on campus, we'll be able to bring this experience to folks who may not have access to it otherwise. However, not only does a rock wall benefit the students on campus, it can help further the educational mission of Wichita State. It provides a unique PE option, the ability to train future climbers in proper belay technique and other safety instructions, but it can also provide job training for our students. Like I said before, climbing is a growing industry, and there's no reason we shouldn't be preparing our students for jobs in that industry, letting them get practice doing things like giving instruction to climbers, inspecting gear for a commercial facility, and setting routes for a rock wall. That hands-on experience is key to getting a job in this growing industry. But even if you're not a climber, there are still benefits of this wall to you. An Athletic Business Journal in October 2015 entitled Reshaping the Campus Wall lists one of my favorites: bringing a kinesiology class to a climbing wall to teach them about movement. So a climbing wall is good not just for students, but for the education, which is the fundamental goal of this university. Now I hope through this speech you understand the problems with the current rock wall, the steps necessary to a solution, and the benefits that something like this on campus would bring. If you are a student, I ask that you contact your SGA representative and shed light on this issue so that we begin to change. And should you be in a position of more authority, I urge you to use that authority to advocate for a better rock wall here on campus. Because what I want at the end of the day is the ability to look every single Wichita State shocker in the eye and say, hey, climb on.